Wearing the mask. Wearing the mask. Most of us, and I did for some time too, cover up who we are. We invent a perfect personality to please people, to get what we want, to cover all of our dark side or shadow side, because we feel we'll be rejected, people won't like us, we can't say what we feel because we'll offend people. So everything, all our uglies go underground until it's so many stuff is repressed and not expressed. You explode like a pressure cooker, and that's when people go berserk, or there's attacks, or because they haven't dealt with all the backlog. It starts when we're children, and because we learn how to be very pleasing and engaging for survival, to get our needs met. And I know if I said anything, told the truth or said anything about my mother, she'd lash out and start, just in a rage, hit me over the head. So I quickly learned to curl up in a ball, and just not say anything, just to get by. And so that's what happens. We decide not to show our whole feelings. And quite right too, otherwise I don't think we would have made it to this age. And many people, now I've actually gone through and embraced all of my emotions, which is amazing because I have the whole field available to me. But if I say something, and if it's not from my heart, people take it as an attack. But it's really not, because I think it's when you're friends with somebody, or if somebody comes and really wants the truth, it's a gift to tell the truth to that person. But the difference is when it comes from your heart, people get it. If it comes from your head, many take it as an attack or criticism, or it reminds them of their parents saying you're not good enough, you're a bad person, when even though it's not meant that way. So, but coming from your heart, people know that it's not an attack, it's given in love, and it's just an observation, or you've observed something, and so you're sharing with a person. So like being a Toastmistress or Toastmasters club, it's creative criticism. You're doing it to help the person. And that's where I learned to speak, and I thought that was wonderful because you're in a safe environment, and so you can start to express and learn, because you wouldn't know unless the audience receives it. You wouldn't know if you were putting a point across or they didn't get where you were coming from. So the mask is used, especially, the number one country is Japan, China, which is all about you have to keep your face, and if you say, if you've been ripped off by somebody and you bring it to their attention, they've lost their face, and that's the worst thing that can happen. So you always leave the door open, say, oh, did you make a mistake? Or maybe I got it wrong, can you clarify? So that gives them a way to front up and be honest without losing their face. And in countries like England, it's very important too. We always show the best side. Anything that's not talked about in society is forbidden. Like when I went to a party and somebody says, "Oh, how are you?" I said, "Well, I'm okay, but it's a bit challenging. I'm dealing with my daughter. She's on drugs." And well, this woman just looked at me and disappeared. Like, so I thought, oh, that's something one shouldn't discuss in polite society. So, but if you're with close friends who accept you and love you for who you are, then you can open up and share your true feelings. Because if you stuff them underground all the time, they really are going to explode. And so, but as children, we can't do that. So that becomes a way of life. So the mask, of perfection, well, I tell you, nobody's perfect. I've seen a lot of people by now, people in United Nations, the aristocracy, royalty, a beggar, a prisoner. None of us are perfect. It's just that people in those positions can cover it up better, or they might have a PR agent to do a good spin. So, no, nobody is perfect. And what is perfect? For what is perfect for me might not be perfect for somebody in another country. What is perfect in one religion is not accepted in another. Because we have our conditioning, we grow up in different cultures. So we have different ideas in what perfect is. And when I was doing my perfect number, I'd have many costumes. Well, who am I seeing today? I dressed to make the person feel comfortable. I mean, but it's very tiring. Because you're adapting yourself constantly, and you're not in your own essence. You're not in your own rhythm. And I found now that I am in my own rhythm. I'm true to myself. Have much more of a heart connection with people because they really feel it. And the perfect picture, people might look you up and down and see you as perfect, but you're not really real. You're portraying a picture, but there's no warmth underneath the picture. And I think people get that too. So when you take the mask off and stand there totally naked, expressing all of your feelings and anything that you've done which you're not that proud of, but realizing that you wouldn't have done it if you weren't ignorant. I mean, if you had more information, or if you weren't into survival at that time, or, you weren't a mother trying to feed her children. You weren't a little boy trying to feed his little brother. And so when the mask comes off, you're a real person, and you're open. There's nothing to hide anymore. There's nothing to defend. So if somebody says something, oh, you're this, you're that, oh, you're a bad mother, used to be mine. I always had to prove I was a good mother. Well, I was invited to go on the Kilroy show with my daughter, and he sort of set me up in a way with because it was all about my book, Wake Up Mom, so I was invited, and he sent a car for me, and everyone was seated when I went in, and he had 3 people stand up and attack me. You're a bad mother. You should have known she was on drugs, and you had 1 child on drugs. Are you a lunatic? Are you stupid? Are you crazy? This was blasted at me from 3 people, including him. I reeled because my biggest biggest button, biggest fear was being a bad mother. I prayed. I said, please God, help me. Please God, help me. I didn't know what to say. I was completely dumbstruck. And so God answered my prayers. This lady in the audience got up and she says, how dare you berate that poor woman? Oh, thank you, God, thank you, God. And my daughter got up and says, no, my mother, we've always been able to talk and communicate. She's okay. It was my father that did the problem. And anyway, the whole energy turned around in the audience. And I relaxed a bit and I could say what I felt. I mean, I'd never come across drugs. How did I know that a line of white powder wasn't talcum powder? I mean, my daughter had talcum powder. It was drugs lined up, and I blew it away thinking it was powder. And my daughter thought, I'd blown away her whole weekly allowance. I had no idea what drugs were. So the attack and the judgment, it was like a manhunt, a persecution. And anyway, I got through it, and he shook my hand after and said, would I come back? I said, no, I don't think so. And in the car on the way home, it was like the Mickey Mouse cartoons, with your head going around, like, what happened? But then, I had a lot of time after that to process it. And what is a bad mother? What is a good mother? We love our children to bits no matter what they've done. And I was super cautious not to be perceived as a bad or uncaring mother. But, we can never do things perfect. I was under stress, providing for my children. Putting on the mask and being the perfect stockbroker, walking around with a man's suit adapted to a woman, carrying a briefcase, and like in the Women's Association and all this. I was exhausted trying to keep up this image. I was so tired. And I just decided to take off the mask. Look, this is who I am, accept me or not. And the people who want to be around me will be around me. And guess what? Then you draw really beautiful, loving souls who genuinely love you and care for you, because they can actually get to you. They can get to your heart instead of being around other people who are pretending. And I'm sure a lot of you have been to a cocktail party. Kiss on the cheek, not even making contact with the cheek, just blowing air. And then say, how are you? So you tell them, and they're not listening at all. They're looking at the next target. So it's just a waste of time. It's all people posing with no heart, with no genuine wanting to connect. They just want to show off, And it really isn't that beneficial to anybody. So I would agree, and I think taking off the mask has been a great thing for me to do, because I can just be myself. And now I love myself more, really love and appreciate who I am. I don't need anything from anybody. I don't need you to love me. I don't need her to love me. I don't need my children to love me, because I love me, and it was always my responsibility. It was nobody's responsibility at all. And so when you're not needy, it's amazing. Everything actually comes to you when you don't need it. You don't need money because you've got love, and that is so much more than any money could ever buy. The fact is that it just comes to you, and friends come to you, people invite you everywhere, and so the whole thing shifts. And then you find you actually don't even need money. It's a fascinating life, isn't it? And so we learn. I always felt I was this poor little girl from the outback. Nobody loved me. Um, I was poor. And I felt poor. So that's why I put on that image. But there was always a conflict. And really, if you don't honor your inner child, they call it, she'll come out and sabotage the whole show anyway. So she'll think, well, you're going off there, you're not taking me along, and she won't like it one little bit. So you really, it's just much better to not pretend. And you see that with people. I had lunch at an AIDS benefit. I was sitting next to Graham Norton, and he's really from the heart and a lovely person. And that comes across in his show. But people who are not genuine, you can feel that too if you're just coming from your ego and telling people, speaking to people and telling people what to do. It was like Eckhart Tolle. When I met him, he's so quiet and he just really looks into your soul, and he's really seen you. And so you just form an instant connection. And he speaks in a very soft voice. So the person before him was talking in a very loud voice, and there was a lot of noise around. Eckhart Tolle just sat down until everyone was quiet. Then you had to strain to hear him. So there's a huge difference in, being real. So take off the mask if you want. You don't have to. It's just something that I found really beneficial. And no pretenses on who you are. When you feel good about yourself inside, you don't have to pretend you're anything but what you are. And the truth is, we're all the same. We're all connected. We're all one. We've just had different experiences and different births. So we were educated in a different way. But really nothing makes any difference, because if you come from the heart, you can really do anything that you want without restriction. When you say, if you were in a very privileged position, went to this boarding school and you learnt all the rules, and I think that used to work before, but it doesn't really work now. I think there's been a huge shift, and people who are genuinely helping to raise the vibration, helping to raise humanity, are the successful ones. And we're all the same, absolutely. There isn't one person, a beggar in the street I talk to. And with genuine interest, we in the Victorian Albert Museum at a tiara exhibition. So I had my tiara, my long dress, and I was with some friends, and we came out, and there was a beggar lying outside of the museum, and he fascinated me. So I stopped and talked, and says, how do you get food? How do you keep warm? And had a 10-minute, 15-minute talk with him, and my friends were at the end of the street going, you'll be robbed, but I knew I wouldn't. I connected this beautiful soul. It takes a lot of courage to be living like that. And in the end, there was a tear coming down his eyes, and he said, thank you for seeing me. Really. Because people walk by and don't notice him. But he was a beautiful soul, quite an advanced soul too. And my friends were freaking out down the street that I'd be robbed. No. I knew that wasn't going to be so, and had no fear at all. So we're all one. We're all connected. We're just, beautiful, universal souls having a wonderful human experience. So taking off the mask is great. Do it if you feel like it. If not, it's okay. I love you.